graders, let's talk a little bit about East Africa's great trading centers and things that'll be helpful on this first quiz. So let's just dive right into it. Let's start with this is a kind of a geographical map of Africa, and you can tell that the northern part of Africa has a lot of desert, and then you have kind of the green creeping into that desert is the savanna with like a little bit of rainforest in there, and then some more savanna. So really the savanna is kind of covering that rainforest. The thing I will point out to you about the rainforest part of this map here, it's really where the equator is. So we're right around that, where the equator runs is a lot of rainforest. But I know that it can be a little misleading on this particular map, but here's the thing. Much of the African geography is actually savanna. And why that's important is, be it savanna, desert, rainforest, the geography of the land is going to determine how people can get around and move. And movement really drives trade. So in other words, if you're having to travel across the desert, that's going to require a certain type of movement to be able to move goods and people in order to trade with people who are on the other side of that desert. Whereas crossing a savanna is going to require a different set of skills. So keep that in mind as you're going through the whole concept of East Africa's great trading centers. But despite how it might totally appear on this map, there really is more green than there is desert. So savanna is the prevailing geographical land feature in Africa. All right, next up, let's talk about the Bantu. Now, the Bantu, the migration of the Bantu is generally considered the largest human migration in the history of the world. So if you kind of look at this map here, in the very light green is the Bantu homeland, with all these arrows going all over the map, going basically from the middle part of Africa, just north of the equator. You see 0 degrees latitude right here, just under where it says Gulf of Guinea. So just above that, you have the Bantu homelands, and then they really traverse their way all the way through Africa, really to South Africa, over a period of like 1,000 years. So the migrations of the Bantu, they really went a long way. Now, here's something I want to point out to you, that they started in kind of a savanna area, and they've really moved all over Africa, southern Africa, all the way even through the Kalahari Desert down here in southern Africa. And so they had to adapt as they went along. So they couldn't just live like they lived in their original homeland. So as they moved, as they made their way south and east throughout the southern part of Africa, they had to change the way they lived. They couldn't just live the way they had always lived. And also, just to point out to you that they didn't move north, they moved south. And their culture never disappeared. They kept their culture alive. So anyway, that gives you a little bit of an idea of how the Bantu migrated, how they moved, how they kind of went south. All right, next up we're going to talk about the skills of the Bantu, and what really helped them be able to migrate was having great metalworking skills. So no matter where they went, they were able to work with metal in such a way that they were able to create things that they could use for trade. And so as they made their way south and through all these southern parts of Africa, they were able to trade with more people and trade with more people and trade with more people because of these great metalworking skills. So that was very important in the migration of the Bantu. All right, these pictures here on the left, you see just blocks of salt in West Africa. And then on the right here, you see some cured meats. And those are just meats that have been preserved using salt. And so a thing to remember about salt is salt was basically money to the West Africans. It was so super duper important. They used that salt to preserve meat because they didn't have refrigerators. So we have refrigerators. They did not have refrigerators. So life was much different. So if you were going to kill a pig or whatever you were going to kill, whatever sort of animal you were going to kill and use that meat later, fish, whatever it was, you had to cure that meat using salt instead of preserving it like just by putting it in the fridge or the freezer. They didn't have such a thing. All right, next up we're going to take a look at Ghana. And on the screen it says that by 800, Ghana was in control of West Africa's trade routes. So in other words, if you controlled what was the goods and the people who were traveling throughout West Africa, if you controlled that, then you controlled the money. And so Ghana had become really super duper important because of the location of Ghana on the trade routes. So it really helped them become a powerful nation just through controlling trade because of where they were located. Location, location, location. All right, this is an interesting fella here, Mansa Musa. He was he's often called the richest man in history. Incredible wealth Mansa Musa had. He expanded Mali's borders to the north and towards the Atlantic. He made sure that peace was kept within his kingdom. And here's a big thing. He converted to Islam and he adopted the Muslim justice system. So he promoted religious tolerance, did not impose his religion on his subjects, but he did make Islam the empire's official religion of Mali. So one big major change that Mansa Musa brought to Mali is that he made Islam the official language of Mali, or the official religion, the official religion of Mali. All right, let's take a look at this next slide, and let's start with the Kingdom of Aksum over here in Eastern Africa. So this was a kingdom that was once again important in trade in ancient Eastern Africa. And so as people came into Aksum, as people came in, they brought new ideas and beliefs into the kingdom. And it really shaped the kingdom going forward. It shaped the area going forward. So really super duper important were all these people who, as they were coming to trade in Aksum, they just weren't bringing their goods. They were also bringing their ideas and beliefs. And those things became a part of the kingdom of Aksum. Now just below that, we have Ethiopia. And on the screen, it calls it Christian Ethiopia. At the time, back in the day, quite a few of these lands had become Christian, but most of them returned to other religions eventually. But Ethiopia remained Christian and has remained Christian even into present times. So that was a big major difference between Ethiopia and most of the rest of Africa is they became a Christian land and they have remained Christian to this day. All right, a couple more things to talk about, then we'll be done. Kilwa, the location of the ruins of Kilwa inside what is present-day Tanzania. So the Kilwa people were a part of the Swahili. So it's one thing to just remember about the Kilwa. They were a part of the Swahili culture and the Swahili language. And the last thing we're going to talk about is in Africa. We talked about this briefly on the first slide, but the tropical rainforests, those are located near the equator. Lots of rain occurs in the African tropical rainforest, and so those things are those lands, that area, are the lands that are near the equator. That is it. Wrapping up the first quiz. You're going to do great if you need to watch the video a couple times just to kind of get your brain in the right spot. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope you just get every single question right. If you watch the video, you pay attention, take some notes maybe as you watched. It'll be super duper helpful, and I hope that you get a 100.